Hello and welcome back. The three-man crew is back. I am back in the United States after.
He's back stateside, everybody.
Were you kissing the tarmac when you landed?
Yes, I was. There was let's just say my travels out of the country, while fantastic, caused me a little bit of stress on the way out with a 50+ hour transit out to my final destination. And it was anyone out there, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, I'm sure even you two have had some travel cancellations. It was some of the worst anxiety I've ever had in my life. Right there. That's all gone.
I can't remember the last time I had a trip that went according to plan when it came to the flights. I feel like the last couple of years it gets delayed or canceled every time. I can only imagine how it was for your honeymoon traveling out of the country. So I tip my cap to you, brother, for keeping a level head.
Thank you. Honestly, now that I just tip my cap, I see that Brian and I are wearing the same Nudge hats presented by, and You Are the Program. Let me do a proper intro here, because I feel like I skirted around that to be selfish on my own travel endeavors. Welcome to the You Are the Program podcast presented by Nudge Printing. You see Brian and I have these phenomenal Kelly Green Gruff Sparty hats on. I mean, these things are about as good as it gets. I am now on a big Kelly Green train. I know I am usually a stickler, and we are traditionalists and sticklers on the jerseys, but I wouldn't hate a throwback jersey to come in the mix with Kelly Green, and these are inspiring it. So shout out to Gabe and Nudge for this design and this phenomenal gear here. But we are here to discuss Michigan State and Nebraska in what seems to be a very pivotal game. As we discussed with my travels, I was not able to watch the USC game. I was debating and on the fence, honestly, about even going back to watch it. And I stayed on the side of I'm not going to watch it. I'll just look at the stats. And I think you two might agree with maybe that assumption on doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you almost could have watched the game when it started, like waking up the morning that you got there, or wherever. I don't even know if
No. So here was how it worked. I get on the flight thinking, all right, well, at least this flight's gonna have the game on, and I'll just watch it throughout the flight. Nope. Get on the plane, no Wi-Fi, zero, zip zilch, no Wi-Fi, no communication, and it was probably the best thing for me to just unplug. But that was not great.
I mean, yeah, you didn't. I mean, it was a competitive game up until the third quarter. Me and Higby talked about it, where there was a key play in the third quarter that could have, or actually the start of the fourth quarter, that could have gotten us back in the game. But that's neither here nor there. We are ready for Nebraska, and like you mentioned, this is a pivotal game, and one that could kind of go either way. Nebraska is obviously a good football team, and they have done some good things. Raiola, I'm not like super high on. People have been praising him a lot for his first 4-game performance. But he's put up some decent stats, so that's got to speak for something. So it'll be a competitive game for us, hopefully, and one that we would like to win if we're still going to go in the same direction that we want to go.
Yeah, we all talked about it before the season, how it felt like we needed to split one of these games with USC and Nebraska. Obviously, it would have been awesome to win both games. But realistically, it felt like the odds were kind of stacked against us 2 weeks ago against USC. Playing as late as we did, having some guys hurt, some guys get hurt during the game, everything kind of going against you. But it feels like this game could really define how this season goes. I'm not going to say the guys are going to be checked out after this if they lose, but a win this week will go a long way. And I feel like this game kind of is as much of a must win as it gets in week 6.
Yeah, I think especially coming off the USC game, and one thing I do want to talk about and preface before we talk about Nebraska, because we have the extra data point of USC going on the road and losing to Illinois in dramatic fashion, which was a very, very back and forth game, is a lot of these games, especially with the Big Ten now, and especially the West Coast teams, like they seem to be an extreme outlier because of the extreme travel that they have. And we talked about this with Michigan State going out to USC in the pregame, right? And how much that might impact the team. And that certainly impacts in terms of the travel, the body clock difference, that it's an extra layer in terms of a tough game. And USC comes back and loses to Illinois. I don't want anyone to think, and I don't think really anyone is, but I don't want anyone to have that notion of, well, damn, they just lost it, at Illinois to an Illinois team we don't know is that good. Maybe USC is not as good as we are. It feels like the Big Ten and college football in general, besides the elite teams, it just falls very circumstantial in terms of the body clock and the travel and everything going into it. Because USC just played a 9 a.m. body clock game after playing the latest game the weekend before. So I just kind of wanted to preface that, and I think we'll touch on it on a couple of our topics, Michigan State related, going into this game. But Tyler, you talked about it. This is a hugely important game. The spread for this game is 11.5. Michigan State is clearly, obviously, the underdog in this game. And as much as it is, you would say, a must win, I also think that it is one of those that's a very good measuring stick, because as much as we wanted to think, can we measure up and beat USC, we knew that was going to be probably a little bit of a taller task with everything into it, travel included, the circumstances, the effort it takes to go out to USC, everything. This Nebraska game, I think, is a little bit closer in terms of talent level. Stylistically, I think it's a little bit closer, but also it's a measuring stick in terms of, okay, I think this is a team that we can get, and this is a game that'll tell us a lot, even more, I believe, than the USC game.
Yeah, and I'll get into the time difference and the analytics with that later with my lock. A little preview there. But yeah, I think USC was put in a bad situation. I think that's still a decent, or it's still a good loss if that's such a thing. But Nebraska is definitely a team. They're not like the upper echelon of the Big Ten right now. They could possibly end up that by the end of the season, but they're a team that's definitely beatable. They have some weaknesses in their game, both offense and defense, and it's something that we could have a chance to exploit if we play the chips right and play a solid game and play to our strengths and their weaknesses. But that's something that we're going to have to do, and that will play out on the field on Saturday.
It's kind of unique. Both teams coming off a bye week. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how often that happens. A lot of times it's one team that have 2 weeks to prepare for the other team. It's a good time to catch the other team coming off maybe a trap game, whatever it might be. But it's pretty unique that both teams coming off a bye week. So I think a lot of guys on both sides are going to be healthy, expecting some guys to get back for Michigan State, hopefully. But like you said, this Nebraska team, I was higher on them to start the season. They've been, I think maybe even after week one, I gave them the stock down. But they've been a little underwhelming, I think, to me at least, through 4 or 5 weeks of the season. But I think it could be a coming out party for both teams. It's a pivotal game for both teams, and it's something that I think both teams want to prove that they're trending in the right direction, and the first 3 non-conference games weren't a fluke.
Well, additionally, too, it's interesting looking bigger picture, too, at the Big Ten, because it doesn't feel like anyone is going to be a surprise this year. There's been some teams that we talked about that we thought might be at the bottom of the Big Ten, a Purdue, even a Maryland. I still am pretty questionable on them. I know I talk a lot of throw a lot of shade Maryland's way. They've looked good, but their best win, they just steamrolled Wisconsin, who we've talked about is in serious trouble. But in terms of the entirety of the Big Ten, has anyone made that leap outside of maybe Indiana? But we kind of knew they were still a higher tier team in the Big Ten. Has there been anyone in the middle of that Big Ten that we thought was going to be, from 5 to 12 that has surprised you in a way that you might think they're a tier up?
What do you mean 5-12? Like they're expected to be like the 5th ranked best team, and now they're the 12th.
Yeah, like outside of the Oregon, Ohio State, Penn State, and I think Indiana was the 4th that we had talked about towards that top tier. I think it was really a top 3, and I think Indiana's clearly came up to maybe competing there. But like outside of those clear and obvious ones, has anyone even like made a jump to make you think that, well, they could compete technically in the Big Ten?
I think USC. I think they kind of got caught in a bad situation last week with Illinois and that whole travel situation. But I think Jordan Mailata is a future first-round pick. He was making some elite throws against Illinois and also against us. So I think they could be the only team that I would think on my mind that would be able to do that. Well,
for me, it's Indiana. I mean, I had them. I'll be the first to tell you, hand up, I was wrong about them. I know they made the playoff last year, but they look like they could be. You can make the case that they're better this year than they were last year. But for me, that's the team that's surprised and made a jump up because they look like they can compete at a very high level. And Cignetti he's taking no prisoners. He wants to just kill everybody.
Except for maybe they probably should have lost to Iowa.
Except that one.
Yeah. That's the thing about Iowa, though. Any good team goes to Kinnick and something happens. There's some like voodoo magic in that stadium.
It's the pink locker rooms.
Yeah, it might be.
Credit to you, Higbee, first and foremost. This is a podcast of accountability, a podcast of honor, hand up. This is a hand up culture around here. So I applaud you.
Yeah, point the thumb.
We're never pointing the finger around here. It's always the thumb. The wagon committee has been gathering and holding some emergency meetings in the past couple weeks.
Are they about to start circling in Bloomington?
Well,
they already circled last year. They can't circle again.
So we sent our maybe senior most analyst to go check them out in the Illinois game, and they were really hot on the trails of Bloomington, and then we sent the whole committee out to Iowa City, and we're back in the maybe category. So to be determined there, but yeah, I think they've definitely risen above. My point being in bringing that up wasn't necessarily to talk about an Indiana or a Big Ten as a whole. It's just Nebraska I think Brian and I both had them as a surprise team. I told you before the year I thought they might be a playoff team. I put a bet in for them to be a playoff team this year. They haven't elevated themselves in any discernible way that would tell me, yeah, they're going to be a playoff team. Raiola, I think we'll get into the stats and discuss the offense, but defensively, like I don't see it defensively. And to me, that's the one thing that I was trying to get at is like the middle of the Big Ten still feels very, very middle to where it's even. I think Michigan State is who we've expected. I think Nebraska is maybe a notch below we've expected. So with all of that being said, let's get into this game. As I talked about, Michigan State is a 11.5-point underdog going into Lincoln. It's a 4 p.m. kick. I appreciate that, but as I told you boys, I also have another wedding this weekend. I'm just taking.
There's got to be a rule against it.
These are just body blows to me right now. I'm just taking body blow after body blow right now, and I gotta lock in. But
I feel your pain. That was me last year. I felt like I was having to watch on my phone, kind of sneak it on my phone multiple times last year. It's nice to be able to kind of just actually watch the game from the comfort of my own home or at a bar.
I just bought a second TV for our living room. The past 3 Saturdays I've sat on my couch from 9 a.m. to about 8 p.m. watching football.
I'm gonna need you to start tweeting out your metrics on Saturday with how many steps you take via your iPhone or if you have a fitness wearable. I'm gonna need those reports.
It's got to be under 500.
Those reports are due to the committee ASAP. Okay, keep those coming in. All right, let's get into Nebraska as we talked about. Let's start offensively. First of all, Nebraska is. Oh God, I can't even keep myself straight. Are they 3-1 or 4-1? See, 3. This is where I'm at. They're 3-1 on the year. Just lost to Michigan in a 30-27 game that that was a very strange game. I was able to watch that game. It was very close. I felt like Nebraska was handed a couple different times to win it, handed some gifts. They had a Hail Mary at the end of the half. So maybe this game wasn't even as close as it should have been. A 3-point deficit. I think they ended up scoring late in that game to even make it a 3-point deficit. But Michigan just absolutely tore them up on the ground. They had 286 yards rushing in that game. And that was really the story of the game because Michigan only had, I believe, like 76 yards passing, to where it felt like they didn't really have to do anything outside of their comfort zone. But let's start on the Nebraska offensive side of the ball. Everything centers around the media story and narrative that is Dylan Raiola, Patrick Mahomes 2.0, as he likes to coin himself. I don't know. I think his direct quote was, "I don't know why so many people compare us or think we look the same or act the same."
Look in a mirror.
He must not own a mirror in his dorm room.
The underhand, I think he even had an underhand throw in the Michigan game where I was just like, "Come on, dude! Like, what are we doing here?" But he has been effective this year. He has over 1,100 passing yards, 11 touchdowns to only 1 interception. One of the things I do want to get into as we move down the line here is kind of how Nebraska methodically moves the ball down the field. But they do have some weapons. Their running back, Emmett Johnson, averages 5.5 yards per attempt. He's got 4 touchdowns on the year. Then I think Nebraska's weapons that Dylan Raiola has are pretty effective. He's got 3 different ones, and they're pretty even in terms of production. But Dane Key with over 200 receiving yards on the year, 3 touchdowns. Ja'Cory Barney, 300 yards on the year, 3 touchdowns. And Neziah Hunter, almost 200 yards on the year and 1 touchdown. So offensively for Nebraska, what are you guys focused on in this game as we get ready for the Cornhuskers?
Obviously Raiola is a good quarterback. He's been he's improved year over year from when he started at Nebraska, and he's going to be able to throw the ball and make his reads, decipher the defense, make some good throws. What I thought was interesting is they have their 3 top receivers in Barney, Key, and Hunter, but they have 10 guys that have caught a pass for 20 yards or more, which is that sounds pretty astronomical that there's 10 separate receivers that have caught a pass. And, not every guy is catching 10 catches a game or even on the season. Yeah. Probably about 4 of those guys have had 1 catch for 20 yards or 1 catch for 30 yards. But the fact that they're able to spread the ball around and have a bunch of different weapons is quite interesting. You can't really just kind of shut down one guy and hope that no one else makes plays because the rest of the team is going to make plays. So that'll be key in just kind of playing a shell defense, not really shutting down one guy. Their run game, like you mentioned, Dante. Their running back, Emmett Johnson, solid player, but I'm not expecting them to be able to. Against our rush defense, they might be able to, but they're definitely going to rely on Raiola, I think, a little more in this game.
Yeah, Brian, you mentioned Raiola's improved over the years with Nebraska. One thing that hasn't improved is his throwing motion, and we've kind of joked about it throughout the season, and that thing is hideous. It just looks off. I don't know what it is. As a quarterback, you may be able to explain it better than me, but it looks tough. And
I don't like it. Yeah.
I feel like it's just regressed the last, what were you going to say, Dante? The last year or so.
It's long, it's loopy. It's nothing like his predecessor, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah. like he throws sidearms and quarterbacks try and throw sidearm to create more hip whip, but he doesn't really whip the ball at all. It's like he's throwing sidearm but still pushing the ball. It's the weirdest thing.
Well, something that was really interesting is I think it might have been on the Michigan broadcast or something that I had heard. I don't know if it was on a past podcast, but he tries to do too much. And I don't know if it's a Nebraska coaching thing that they don't want to rein him in too much in terms of sticking to his fundamentals. but he tries to change arm angles like all the time. And I think this goes to what you both are saying is he tries to be creative. He tries to be off platform. And I think this is a real thing that you're going to see with quarterbacks coming up because of the influence of quarterbacks like Pat Mahomes, who can do all these things off platform, but it's just not consistent or you're not able to do it on a down to down basis, especially someone that's not as refined as a Patrick Mahomes or any of these quarterbacks in the NFL that can do that and know what they're doing. It feels like he tries to force some of those creative throws. Like I joked about earlier, he did an underhand throw. Now it was like a 1-yard pass, but he tries to do stuff like that, which is just kind of like showman-y. But when he's in the pocket and clean, like he's even trying to do some of these sidearm throws where he doesn't have his base or platform under him. He's trying to go different arm angles, different arm slots, and it just doesn't seem like he's consistent time over time over time.
Yeah, and to go with that, I mean, you mentioned how he's trying to hit the home run, it feels like a lot of times. So he's sitting back there, which allows the D-line to get pressure and allows the defense to get pressure. So this O-line has given up a decent amount of sacks so far. A lot. I mean, I haven't watched. We all know we haven't watched them like we've watched this Michigan State line. So some of that could be on the running back. Some of that could be on Raiola sitting back there like a statue. So it makes me feel a little better about our opportunities to get some sacks this week. I know we haven't had a whole lot of that this year, but when you have a quarterback like that who's trying to hit the home run all the time, it's helpful. So I'd like to see the pass rush get going a little bit. It'll definitely help. Like I mentioned earlier, coming off a bye week, you get some guys coming back. I saw Dunnigan and Martinez are questionable to play. I feel like they will play. And Jordan Hall obviously got that BS targeting call, so he missed the rest of the last game, but he's good to go this week. So getting some guys back, I feel like coming off a bye week, I feel like that was a good reset this team needed.
I do want to go back to two different things and hit on them a little bit. Because Tyler, you just talked about it there, and Brian, you brought up the stat with 10 different receivers with 20 different 20
yards
catches of 20 yards or more. Or, yes, 20 yards or more. So the interesting thing is, if you look at his graded throws or PFF advanced stats of his attempts and kind of where they slot in on the field or where those at least attempts are. So he has 136 total attempts on the year, right? Of attempts over 20 or more air yards, he has 12 total attempts on the year, 8% of his throws. That is the second lowest number in the Big Ten. Medium distance, 10 to 19 air yards, he has 20 attempts, 22%. Short, 0 to 9 yards of air time, 66 attempts. Almost half of his attempts come between 0 and 9 yards. And then behind the line of scrimmage, 24 attempts, so 17%. He has 66% of his attempts are going behind the line of scrimmage or up to 9 yards. And I think that goes perfectly into Tyler. This is another stat talking about, well, it almost looks like he's going to the home run ball. Well, the stats don't really show that, but what is weird is that he also has 11 sacks on the season, but every single one of those sacks comes when he has greater than 2.5 seconds to throw. And I think this kind of matches the eye test of, I think it was in the Michigan game. There was a couple times where like the first look or his first read was taken away and he just becomes kind of a statue back there of, I don't know if he's trying to find the home run ball or he doesn't exactly know where his second read is. Yeah. Some of his stats are very, very strange, especially with the amount of throws that are short and quick game that he doesn't get out first read, and then he kind of just falls into a sack. So his numbers are kind of all over the place, but I wanted to drop those two because it's a very kind of interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah, I think it's like a combo of him not being able to read the defense well. He's kind of like a one read and then just kind of scan and see if anyone else is open. And then also, I don't think his pocket presence is very good. It's even like when he's taking these sacks, it's not like there's a guy that's like he's trying to move in the pocket and he's getting sacked. It's like he's standing in the same spot, or there's a kind of an O-line being pushed back into him a little bit. And if he just takes a step back in the pocket, he can have full another second to throw. But he kind of just stays there, and then a guy can wrap him up by his leg or kind of get an arm on him. At least that was what it was like in the Michigan game from my perspective. So I feel like that kind of translates to the rest of the season as well. So it's kind of the combination of both of those things. I think that's playing into that.
One more thing I'll say too. You mentioned Dane Key, Dante. I like him a lot as a receiver. I think he's very dangerous. Obviously, I don't know if he's their number one, but to me, he's their number one. He's the guy you gotta highlight on the scouting report. You got to try to take him away as best you can because he can be a one-man wrecking crew. He's capable of it. But I'd like to see them do what they can to slow him down and then slow this Nebraska running game down too.
Yeah, let's talk about it then. So let's talk a little bit Michigan State defensively. And you guys talked about the USC game, talked about the rushing totals that came out of that. Tyler, you just brought it up. You got to slow down the run game. I think for me, this is the biggest key for Michigan State's defense because I want Dylan Raiola to have to sit in the pocket. Like if I put on a defensive coordinator hat from a podcast chair here with a mic and said, what is the best game plan for Michigan State to be able to mitigate? Understanding the limitations of our defense, I would say I would bring everything up. I don't want to say dare them to throw that home run ball because they have explosiveness. And as we just talked about, Tyler, you brought up Dane Key. I think they have very good receivers, but they don't show that tendency to go deep, right? And so I'd bring your coverage up, try to take away first reads, and really make them condense the line of scrimmage so that way it doesn't, things don't kind of just seem easy to Dylan Raiola, make them look for those second reads. But in the run game specifically, I want to see that USC game was kind of an outlier in terms of, like we just said, travel, circumstance with the game time, but also then personnel with all the injuries that went down. You had both of your starting linebackers out for the entirety of the second half of that game. I don't know how much of a difference it makes, but that just can't happen. And so I kind of want everyone to take Michigan State's defense for what it is and think about, okay, how can they at least have some sort of a semblance of a game plan that can at least slow down and keep us in this game to win it?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I'm looking to see if that USC game was an anomaly because I think USC is very good at running the ball, and our defense has been, at least the first couple games, albeit not against great opponents, but we've been good against stopping the run. But I think I would argue that I think our biggest goal defensively is to stop the passing game, basically. Like our defense, our passing defense is one of the worst in the country via EPA. We're 114th. EPA is like expected point average, basically like how many points you get per pass attempt. I think Nebraska average is like 0.03, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually, like, you're getting 0.03 points for every pass attempt that they attempt. Yeah. So I would argue that we should play shell coverage most of the game, force them to run the ball, let Raiola get a little anxious back there, want to throw the ball, and then force some throws into some bad situations. So I would make them run the ball and, kind of force Raiola to force some stuff downfield.
I'm curious if Nebraska fans, if they've bought into Raiola, like, do they trust him? If they're down 5, they need a touchdown. You got a minute and a half with a timeout left. Do you trust him to lead a game-winning drive? I don't know if I do.
I don't think I do.
I feel like they would have to have that like blind faith. It's probably the same with like the Michigan fans in Underwood because of who he is, and I think even a Michigan State fan, right? And what we think of the ability of Childs, has he shown that ability to do that late in games? I mean, he hasn't really needed to. I guess he did a little bit in the Boston College game, but I think they'd have faith in him. But I think it's a very interesting question because for most neutral observers, I do think that the Dylan Raiola experience is kind of tired for things off the field, but I don't think he's really shown enough like explosiveness or electricity on offense to make everyone look and want to watch Dylan Raiola.
We would all agree that we would take Aiden over Dylan Raiola, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
That was my next question.
Okay, good. I agree with that as well.
I would love to see this defense create some turnovers. I think one of you mentioned it, but realistically, we're not going to be able to shut down this offense as a whole. You got to get some tip balls. You got to get your hands up in these passing lanes. If he's going to sit back there and you're not getting to him, get your hands up, get some tip balls, get some turnovers, give me a peanut punch, give me something. Give me one or two. Win the turnover battle this game. I think that gives you a much, much better chance of walking out of Lincoln with a win.
Yeah.
Well, and that's going to be my last point too. Of with everything that we've talked about, he will fall into. I don't know about the big mistake. I mean, he's only made one interception this year, or he's only thrown one interception this year. But he will fall into negative plays, as we've just talked about. If something's not there, he will try to scramble around. And unlike a Pat Mahomes, I'll keep saying him, but I'll actually stop saying this. But he tries to extend plays when he doesn't have that type of ability. Like Aiden Childs has extendability in his – that's one of his biggest weapons. A Bryce Underwood or any of these quarterbacks that can kind of make things happen while things are breaking down around him can do that. But he extends plays, but he doesn't have that type of escapability. He's not as mobile as any of these guys. So that was going to be my last question. Do you think he is more of a kill quarterback or contain quarterback? And for anyone out there that didn't listen to, I think it was our podcast with Justin Thind where we explained through this. Before each game on the defensive side of the ball, they'd go through the offensive personnel and they'd kind of tell the defensive line, is this a kill quarterback or a contain quarterback? Meaning, if it's a kill quarterback, he's just a guy that kind of sits in the pocket. And when you're going to sack him, you can just go for him. You don't have to necessarily worry too much about him escaping you. Or is he a contain guy that you have to make sure you're breaking down, keeping him in front because you don't want him to miss that sack attempt? So do you think he's more of a kill or contain?
I would say he's a kill quarterback. He's not beating us in the running game. He's not going to escape the pocket and gain 15 yards on a 3rd and 12 and get a first down. I think he's a guy that doesn't move very well in the pocket, doesn't see the field great, and kind of just stands back there. So I would consider him a kill quarterback.
I would consider him a kill as well. I think if you asked him, he would say contain. I think if you asked a lot of people, they might say contain as well. Just based off, like you said, he can be a statue, but like he wants to. I think he does want to run. He wants to prove that he can run somewhat. But to me, he's a kill quarterback.
I would go contain just strictly off the fact of, I'm not worried about him running the ball, but I think, like we've talked about, he kind of freezes a little bit and either tries to make too much of a play if someone's in his face, or you just limit the amount of things he can do out of the pocket. Like I think if you get pressure in his face, he's either going to just try and make a play like a sack even more negative, or he's just going to make a bad decision. So like I'd be completely fine if we just try to rush forward, just push the pocket. And I know as infuriating as that might sound, but there's two different ways, and I think you can kind of play in both ways, honestly. And if the sacks come, I listen, I'm not going to be complaining if we get any type of sacks on him. All right, so there we go. All right, let's move over to the offensive side of the ball. But first, before we do that, as we mentioned at the top, Nudge Printing, our presenting sponsor. We talked about our Kelly Green hats. I got another hat over here, the black Sparty, just a classic. Can you see that in there? Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, get a little logo there.
Black Sparty, you get the logo in there.
Yep.
Nice white classic Spartan head, white and green.
Yours is fire, Higby. I like that a lot.
And that got the bone quarter zip.
Yeah,
it's nice with the gruff Sparty. Gonna be my new favorite quarter zip. Yeah.
Well, it's right there. Yeah. Wow. Between the three of us, we can have one matching outfit at some point. But I mean, the stuff and the brand matter, obviously, and the quality matter, but it's also the people, and that's what that we'll always talk about. Like we've said at the top, and we'll continue to say, we had a phenomenal time working with Gabe and the company that they are. Spartan-owned company, like we said, we pride ourselves obviously on being Spartans. And we wanted to partner with someone who is also that. But for the gear, like we've said, they have elite logos, their hats, their quarter zips, their polos. They even came out with koozies recently. I think, Tyler, you bought a couple of them.
Got some on the way. Gruff Sparty, white and green. They'll be rocking those at the tailgate.
Hey.
You know who else will be rocking those? Mr. Lewerke when he takes 500 steps on Saturday total. All right.
I need to buy a koozie so I can just sit with that in my hand on my couch for 10 hours.
So with Nudge, you can go to their website at nudgeprinting.com. Also, everything is printed here in mid-Michigan. So when you wear their gear, you're supporting local craftsmanship and a true Spartan spirit. So always we'll shout out Nudge Printing. As we've talked about, Spartan owned. If you're listening to this, you're a Spartan. Go check them out. All right, let's flip over to the Michigan State offense and Nebraska defense. As we've talked about, this might be the side that gives me some of the most excitement for this game, and I think a lot of Spartan fans excitement because we want to see this offense on the field. Put up 31 points against USC. Again, without me knowing, watching the game, I don't know how it looked on a drive-to-drive basis, but it really feels like in general, Aiden Childs is starting to become a lot more comfortable back there and starting to make the plays. It's not even starting. It's just continuing, and he's stacking good week on good week on good week. And I'm excited to see what he can do coming off a bye week. Nick Marsh should be fully healthy again. I saw Jonathan Smith say that he is close to 100%. It sounded like a lower leg contusion that limited him in that USC game. So he should be fully healthy, full receiving core and weapons for him to throw to. But it does sound like Stanton Ramel, the starting left tackle who's been starting there all year, will be out for about a month. Good news, not a year, but a month, which will cause some shakeup on the offensive line. So I kind of want to talk about this to open up before we get into any statistics. How do we think this is going to impact us? I think Stanton Ramel has been very effective as a run blocker, but in the pass blocking game, he's been a little shaky at times. Number one, how do you think his impact or the loss of him will impact our offensive line? And number two, with all of the different rotating that we've done along this offensive line this year, how do we kind of expect that to shake out? Do we think more goes to left tackle? Do they bring in Rustin Young, who's a young guy that played left tackle when Ramel went out? How do we kind of expect the offensive line to shake out after that? But kind of answer those at your will there.
Well, I'll leave the shakeup to you guys to answer, but I think we obviously talked about how much we did not like the rotation in the offensive line early in the games, but this is why you do it, because you have
Quick
injuries.
Question.
Go ahead.
Quick question. I hate to interrupt you. How much did we rotate against USC? I guess he may have got injured early, but
I don't think a lot. I wasn't really paying attention to it. Tyler, do you have a good answer?
I remember there was a switch early, which was not because of injury. But
I thought I heard a Jonathan Smith quote after the game. Like someone asked him about it, and he said that they intentionally did not want to switch a lot in this game. But I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't
okay.
think it was
Anyways,
a lot.
Continue. Sorry.
Either way, I think that's why you have some O-line rotation early in the season to get some guys some playing time just in case something happens, and two, to figure out who the guy is. So I mean, obviously, I think it could impact us a little bit having a starting tackle, especially the blind side for Aiden Childs out for a little bit. But that's why you do it. It's the next man up mentality, and this is college football. People get hurt. They're young, but they still get hurt. And the good news is that they're young enough to rebound quickly. Their bodies are young and they can heal quickly. So that's what I'm hoping for. And it could affect us a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be like a noticeable difference in that one position, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I thought Rustin Young actually did a decent job when he came in 2 weeks ago. Honestly, I mean, that game feels like it was forever ago. I don't remember exactly how the whole O-line situation went, but I don't remember seeing any glaring issues. The run game got some traction in the second half. They ran a lot of stretch zone, a lot of stuff for Frazier to cut back. He was seeing it well, and it was rolling in the second half with the run game. They struggled early. We talked about, I forget his name already, but they're kind of their joker, the guy that moved around on.
Oh yeah, USC's guy,
Gentry.
Yeah. Gentry, that's right.
I think it was, yeah.
That guy's a bad dude.
He was a problem early on, but we found a way to handle him. To answer your question about the left tackle spot, I mean, this O-line has gotten pushed on the right side pretty consistently throughout the year. I don't see that really changing. And pass pro, I mean, it's no secret. We've talked about it. Stan has struggled in the pass game this year. So I'm optimistic about this mix-up, and I think the bye week couldn't come at a better time for a new left tackle. I mean, he gets a full week, and you think about that USC game being as late as it was, you're damn near into Monday by the time you start practice. You don't get back to East Lansing till probably mid-morning on Sunday. You get the rest of the day off, and then you're already into Monday. It's a short week, so having the bye week really helps at that spot.
What do you think, Tyler? What would you rather see them do? Would you rather see them flip Connor Moore from right to left and put in Ashton Lepo, who's played a lot of snaps at right? Or would you rather just let Rustin Young go on the left side and keep that right side intact? You talked about how much push they got on the right side, and it seems like we're continuing to get that push on the right side. I think I know where you're going to lean with this one, but wanted to open it.
Yeah, I'm letting Rustin go at left tackle. I've talked about how much it actually means to play next to that same guy just for series on series and series. It makes a big difference, and you're starting to see some of the continuity these guys are building with each other, playing with each other. You don't want to mix that up. And I've also talked about how it's not as easy just to go from the right side to the left side. It sounds easy in theory. There's only a handful of guys that are capable of bouncing from side to side. Keep them comfortable on the right side. Keep those two together, and we'll just move one chess piece instead of having to move two or three.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Connor Moore has kind of gotten pretty comfortable on that right side, and that right side seems to be gelling a little bit. Okay. That's one of the biggest shakeups that we're going to see. But that run game, as we've talked about, is going to be the key. I think we're all going to agree on this offensive side of the ball. Nebraska, as we talked about at the top, gave up 286 yards to Michigan on the ground. But it doesn't stop there, because the other Power 4 opponent they played this year, Cincinnati, they gave up 200 yards on the ground, most of that through a scrambling quarterback. And obviously Michigan has Bryce Underwood, who I know ran for not 100 yards, but he had a long touchdown run. So he got loose on them a little bit. Nebraska is not a very good run defense, and I think it starts with just how they play defense. They play a 3-3-5 alignment, which is 3 down linemen, 3 linebackers, 5 defensive backs. While this can cause confusion for the offensive line, Tyler, I'm going to throw it back to you on this one. They just don't have a lot of bodies up there. So teams can get to the second level pretty quickly if they're not creating penetration and creating chaos. And I think that's what the 3-3-5 defense is typically supposed to do, in terms of you're moving guys kind of all around. You don't know who's coming to support in the run game. But they continue to get chewed up with that defensive alignment. And Tyler, I just want to throw it back to you on the 3-3-5 point of it. Do you remember playing against this specific type of defensive alignment? And 2, if you do, like how much more important is the communication with this type of alignment, because they might have guys coming from different angles?
Yeah, it's definitely. I remember playing it. This 3-3-5. It's crucial if you have a big stout nose, and that's what Nebraska had when we played them back when we did
18.
Yeah, 18.
Yeah.
If you get a big stout nose in there, it makes it obviously life miserable for a center. But you talk about these guys moving around. Honestly, in the pass game, it's if you know your rules, you understand your assignment, it's pretty easy, and it's on the quarterback as well to I mean, you might be sliding to a certain guy, you might be sliding to the field, might be sliding to the boundary. It's different for every defensive coordinator where he likes bringing pressure from, because they have tendencies too. They're never right down the middle 50-50 where they like to bring pressure from. So you have tendencies, you have guys, you have keys, all that kind of stuff. Run game wise, it can be tricky, because if you hesitate for a second, those linebackers, those DNs, they're twisting or they're just shooting downhill. You hesitate, they're going to be right past you making a TFL or blowing up a play, whatever it might be. Honestly, to me, a 3-3-5 was easier to block in the pass game than it was the run game, because, I mean, like I just said, it's they want to make you hesitant. That split second you hesitate, it's game over.
Tyler, do you remember playing against Tulsa in 2019? They
Yep.
ran like a 3-2-6.
Yeah.
And I remember watching film all week.
Nice.
We were like, yeah. I remember watching film. There was like there was 5 guys within 8 yards of the line of scrimmage, and then everyone else was like beyond 8 yards, and we're like, oh, we're gonna run for like 300 yards against these guys. And then you actually get out there and they just flow so fast, and the safeties play downhill so quickly, and it makes it tough for the O-line because they don't know where guys are coming from and where to block, and it's all zone schemes. You can't really do any man schemes. So
yeah, because when you're in pass, they kind of just come to you, and then like I said, and I've said before, in college they don't know how to disguise anything. You can see it coming from a mile away, so it's pretty easy in the pass game, in my opinion.
It's people coming to you versus you going to get people, essentially, and getting to that second level. So luckily for us, and this is where I think I really want to lean on this too, as our biggest strength, because you talk about how key the nose is to that defense and in terms of controlling the front of the line of scrimmage. Well, thank God we have one of the best centers in college football with Matt Golban up there trying to move people and trying to communicate as well with the run game or pass game in terms of where you're going to slide. But also it's going to be interesting to see how the offensive line rotation goes into that with some of the obviously Stanton Ramel coming out and you having either Rustin Young or some other type of flip on that offensive line. In the pass game, they rank pretty highly in pretty much every single statistic. However, we need to caveat this with the fact they've probably put, well, I don't want to say 2 of the worst passing offenses in Power 4 football, but one of the worst in the Big Ten in terms of Michigan. I don't want to say worst in terms of no talent. They just don't do it very often. And the fact that they could run for almost 300 yards against Nebraska's front, they didn't need to throw the ball. So some of these pass numbers are inflated in an opposite way for Nebraska, but I do think they have a good defensive backfield. They got good players back there. But I do think this is something that offensively, as we look at this Nebraska defense, we should be having a very good day against them, staying on schedule with the run game, but then also the pass game in terms of keeping Aiden Childs clean and making good decisions that side.
Yeah, that's kind of my big focus on this is one. I mean, our pass game, I would argue, is our strength of the offense. Nebraska's strength of their defense is the pass defense. They're second in the country in EPA. And Dante said not against great passing teams, but still there's something to be said about that. And then their rushing defense is one of the worst in the country. And our rushing attack is not horrible, but it's not also a strength of our offense. So it's going to be interesting. And you said also that this is going to be the area that we have to win, and that I 100% agree with that. We're going to have to be able to run the ball and attack the ball, attack the defense in the running game to be able to create yards and create some stress on them. I think Aiden Childs is an incredible quarterback. And even when you were talking about him, I haven't had a game from him where I'm like, all right, this is like an off game for him. He's continually been playing very, very well compared to how he was last year. And there'll be some times where his arm is going to have to, make some big plays and win this game. But it's going to be tough against a good passing defense, and I think Nebraska's D-line is also pretty solid, so it's going to put a little pressure on our O-line up front. But I think if we want to be able to put some pressure on Nebraska's defense, it's going to have to be in the running game, and that's probably, in my prediction, where we're going to have to be able to win or do to win this game is in the running game.
So what you're saying is something's got to give.
Something's got to give.
We got to be able to run the ball, or they got to be able to stop us through the air. Something's got to give.
Yeah.
I think I've mentioned the bye week multiple times already. Yes, it's early in the season, but I think it came at a perfect time. You were getting a little banged up. You get guys healthy, specifically this receiver room. Nick Marsh back 100%. Find me a DB that can stop him one-on-one. You're going to have to do something to double team him, bracket him. Play shell coverage if you want. You give us underneath stuff. I think this bye week came at a perfect time, and I think Childs in this receiving room are going to have a big day.
We know that this offense has been good, right? I think in terms of expectations, if you told me throughout the course of the schedule, outside of the Western Michigan game, if you put up the offensive statistics from the first 4 games that we played, I take those all day. But I think this is a time that this offense needs to take it to another level in terms of the pass game. Because I said it before the year, I said it privately to some of my friends, and I think we talked about it here on the Michigan State preview. I don't know if there's a better receiving core in the Big Ten outside of obviously Ohio State And then I would throw USC in there as well. I think personnel and scheme has stuff to do with it. But I think you're starting to see this receiving core come into really the fray here. Krishan McCray is starting to heat up. He didn't play a ton week one, or I don't want to say didn't play a ton, didn't make a huge impact week one. He was out most of camp with an injury. Omari Kelly has been phenomenal all year, and Nick Marsh has lived up to the billing when healthy. And so I think this is really the challenge. Tyler, you've talked about the bye week consistently. This is a time where they've seen 4 weeks of what they can put on the field. And now it's how can you elevate that outside of it? And this is going to be fascinating because I think we can attack through the run game, but I want to see this offense be prolific through whether it's the run or the pass, because I do think we could be one of the better passing attacks in the Big Ten. And it's time to push that to another level because I think this team or this offense and this unit can score against this Nebraska defense.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about it is I think I've been extremely impressed with the offense. It's obviously the bright spot of our team right now. And until the defense proves me wrong and is able to, kind of consistently stop the passing game from the opposing team, the offense is going to be what kind of drives this team and gets them going. And we may have to put up 28, 30 points a game to be able to win some games. And I think that we do have the ability to do that. We are a very good offense. And like you said, our receiving core, I would 100% probably in the top 3 in the Big Ten. So just echoing everything you're saying. Yeah.
Can't forget about special teams. You got the best punter in the country. He's been money. I mean, I don't want to have to see him a lot, but he's a weapon. So when we need to use him, let's use him.
Yeah, and let's go into our keys to the game. But before I do that, I also want to say this needs to be a complete game. Brian, you just talked about, offense needs to complement the defense in terms of they got to put up points. And we need to understand what this Michigan State defense is. I understand the frustrations with what this defense is, but you can still have a winnable game plan with what you have. And maybe against some teams, if you're playing in Ohio State or in Oregon and they're just going to kill you through the air, yeah, Nebraska can do that as well. But you need to find a way to manage through that because you have a unit in your offense that can put up 30 points and win you games. So how do you manage defense to do that? That's where I talk about complete game. Tyler, you just talked about special teams. If our offense doesn't score, special teams needs to flip the field and be able to, whether we get to the 40 or midfield, be able to flip the field, pin them deep, help the defense, get a couple downs where they know it's obvious rundown and pin their ears back and get some plays to where you're putting Nebraska's offense in tough spots. So I just really think it's going to be very, very key as we go along, knowing that we don't have an elite defense, we don't have a good defense, but we need to have a defense that at least manages to get us to win games. And I think that's very doable, especially in this spot. So just want to say that. Let's get to keys to the game. Brian, do you have one for us?
Yeah, it's kind of something I mentioned already, but it's kind of which is going to break first, our passing game against their passing defense or our rushing against their rushing defense. Which one is going to shine? Is our offensive passing game going to outshine their defensive passing defense, or is our running game going to be able to wear them down like most teams have been able to throughout the course of the season? So I think either one, whichever one is kind of working for the game, kind of ride it and stick with it, and hopefully that gets us a win.
Yeah, a couple of things. I want to see 0 sacks from the O-line. I know it's a lofty goal, especially with a new left tackle coming in. 0 sacks, and I want to make this Nebraska offense drive the length of the field. You've had a week to correct some mistakes. Yeah, like I've said, you've gotten some guys back. I don't want to see any busted coverages, any miscommunications, guys not in the right spot before the snap. I want to see this. I want to make this Nebraska team drive down the field consistently. I don't know if they're good enough to do that for the entirety of the game. We'll find out.
For me, it's winning the line of scrimmage, and that's on both sides. I think we've talked enough about the Michigan State run game against the Nebraska defense. Win the line of scrimmage up there. And then on defense, it's the same thing. Win the line of scrimmage. Limit them in the run game. And I know, Brian, you'd rather almost make Dylan Raiola just get him comfortable, let them run the ball when they might, but keep everything in front of us. I think you need to win the line of scrimmage on both sides because I think time of possession is also going to be a very key thing in this game. The USC game, we knew we were going to have to score a lot of points if we were going to be able to win that game, right? I think it was a very lofty goal to hold them under 30 points. You were going to have to try and outscore them. But in this game, I do think it sets up for us their weakness. Turn your offensive line into a strength and win the line of scrimmage on that side. And then on defense, be able to stop the run and put them in some longer downs to where, Raiola, he's taken 11 sacks on the year. A lot of them don't come off of blitzes. Well, we don't get to the quarterback very well. So take away the first read, just continually push the line of scrimmage on both sides. And I think that's a very big key for us. And I think if we do that, we're going to be in a very good position to win the game. All right. This was probably the most thorough we've gone through a game, but I think that kind of overlays the stakes to this game because this is a very key point in the season. You win this, you're 4-1. You got UCLA homecoming next week. You return home. They haven't played at home, and Tyler, you talked about the USC game felt like decades ago. The last home game, the Youngstown State game, felt like decades ago. So this you have two different sides of the coin here, to where you can be 4-1 going into UCLA, and then you have two monumental games coming up after that. So this is truly could be a turning point in the season, and we need to see a turning point in the season. I know Boston College felt like a very, very big win and a key win, which it definitely was. But this would be a different win because this would prove out proof of concept. It would prove out, you're able to go on the road and win a game. It would give a ton of confidence to the guys in the locker room and us fans, obviously, as well, watching from home. So let's get into the locks. Where are we at on the season here? Did everyone win last week? What was the total there?
I pushed on mine. I had TCU +3, and they lost by 3. So I pushed. Higbee.
I bet you can guess what I did. I had Kansas -4.5. I don't really remember who they played, nor do I care because it didn't hit. So that's where I'm at.
I think it was Cincinnati, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And then Dante, you won.
Ohio State.
Ohio State. Yep.
I told you guys before the game, you might have to pass over the nuclear bomb codes to me, the nuke codes. I was about to punch them in on Ohio State, and they came through 8.5 on the road against Washington. So that felt good. I'm turning it around. Tyler, we need to get you to turn it around. You always have that confidence in your picks.
I wasn't as confident about Kansas last week. It was kind of the first one I saw. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Well, how about you kick us off here? Because I think you're going to turn this thing around, and I love your pick this week. What do you got?
So I have the Michigan State Nebraska over right now. It's at 48.5. To me, that seems low, especially we've talked about both offenses and how both defenses may have struggled in certain areas. And I think if this under hits, that's in MSU's favor. I think if it under hits, that means it's a close game, and that means, it's a defensive battle, which I think favors Michigan State, if you ask me. So it's really, I like the over a lot, but if we're rooting for a win, I don't hate the under either. But the over. Just give me the over. Give me the over.
Love it. Dante, we were talking about teams traveling cross country earlier in the podcast.
Get on me.
I'm playing strictly analytics in this one. I'm taking Maryland +7. They're at home versus Washington, who just came off playing the number 1 team in the country at home. A double-digit loss. They got to travel cross country. The game's at 3:30 Eastern, so it's going to be a noon clock for Washington, noon body clock. I don't know. And Maryland, I do like Maryland's quarterback a lot, even though Washington kind of was my sleeper Big Ten team, and I still kind of think they are. But I think 7 points is a lot for a team traveling cross country in the worst stadium in the Big Ten. Has no juice. I think they cover this.
This is I'm trying to think of an environment that induces sleep. And I was about to say the daycare because, kids always take nap time at at daycare, and that's what Maryland Stadium might be. It just lulls you to sleep. I actually like that a lot, also because Washington just came off of Ohio State last week. This needs to be an analytical model. You need to punch this in, who they played the last week, how far they're traveling. That's a beautiful pick. I am staying near and dear to the heart. I'm taking Michigan State 11.5 against Nebraska. I think this is too many points. I think these two teams aren't 10 points or 11.5 points that much further away. I don't know what I'm even trying to say right now. That separated talent-wise. I feel like if this game was at Michigan State, it should be under a touchdown. And I don't think that this, granted, you talk about environments and Maryland's being bad. This is the best environment in the Big Ten. So this is another big stage that Michigan State's playing on. We've talked about how great Nebraska Stadium is. It'll be sold out. It'll be loud. That'll be tough. But I think this is a good spot for us to play well coming off a bye week and being motivated. So I got Michigan State plus 11.5. How do we feel? I asked you guys to feel that one out beforehand, and
I like it. I like money line also. So
I think we're live.
See, the thing is with Michigan State, I could see it going either ways, like every single game, unless we're playing like Ohio State or Penn State or Oregon or something in a year like this. I could see any game going either way.
This will be, I mean, I know this is not their first road game, but this will be their first real away environment.
Big Ten environment, yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned it. Nebraska, I think Penn State's probably number one, but Nebraska's a close second. Those are two insane places to play, and it's deafening at Nebraska.
It'll be a great environment. I think it'll be a great game, and we need to see a great game. We need to see a great game out of the offense, out of the defense, inspire some confidence. This would be a big one. This would be a truly, truly big one. It feels like a signature win that Jonathan Smith needs, that this team needs, that this locker room needs. They talk about how close they are a lot. They talk about how close-knit this team is. We'll find out. We'll talk to you guys after the weekend, after hopefully a Michigan State win. Go Green.